Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Carrie and I talk about faith, family, and kids videos. I'm going to be doing a recap basically of my whole egg donation journey. That way, if you're interested, you just have everything in one video for what you would need to know if you'd like to donate, or if you're just curious about the process that I went through. I have made other videos just kind of documenting along the way, but honestly, some of the videos were when I was first starting YouTube and they're not fantastic. So let's hop into it. This all started back in November. I was contacted saying, hey, you're one of 2 girls that a family is going to pick for being their egg donor. So we waited a few weeks, an excruciating few weeks, and finally we're told, hey, yeah, you're the one who got picked. So in December, I was prescribed birth control. Now, when I was prescribed this birth control, I was told this is just to protect you from getting pregnant. We don't want you to get pregnant during this time. Well, the birth control was making me very sick and it was to the point where I felt like I couldn't do my job, and I was constantly needing to be sitting down, and I just felt awful, you guys. I had never taken birth control before this point. Okay, this pasta needs a little longer. That's hot. I definitely just burned myself. Okay. So, I was taking the birth control and I was supposed to go in to get genetic testing. So I got genetic testing and it came back that I am a carrier for cystic fibrosis. So they had to get the husband tested for this couple. Well, we also tested Tyler because we were scared about, because basically if both the female and the male that are coming together, if they both are carriers, they both have it, whatever, then your child is like a 1 in 4 chance of getting it. I think I'm gonna put some more water in here. So it was a couple more weeks of waiting to see if the husband had anything show up in his genetic records. Well, finally it came back clean and I continued in the process. Well, the process included me going in for an ultrasound, and even though I was taking a shot at the time that was supposed to regulate my cycle and like kind of give them control over my cycle, I had stopped taking the birth control at that time. What I didn't realize is that the birth control was actually prescribed so that I would not have cysts. So they found out obviously that I had stopped taking the birth control based on how it was making me feel. I got in trouble and they were like, you have to take the birth control. So I was taking a free birth control at the time, and they prescribed me one that cost like $65, $70. So I think they are going to refund me, hopefully, for the many times I had to buy that. But that's what happened with the birth control. So this is now, let's see, genetic testing came back at the beginning of January. So like November I was notified, December I was prescribed the birth control, the first one, and then January is when we got the genetic testing back and figured out I needed to be on a different birth control. Because I remember like it was actually around Christmas time that we had to go into Walmart and pick up the prescription. So let's see. Then at the end of January, I got all my stimulation medication and I was set to go for the Retrieval in the beginning of February, I believe, like the first couple weeks of February. Well, I got to my first appointment, ultrasound, and they said, actually it looks like your ovaries are starting to produce again. So they now decided that one birth control pill was not enough, and they had to put me on it twice, so in the morning and at night. Well, this is in February when they found this out. Well, March, well, at the end of February, really, COVID, you know, started happening. So I had told them I had blockout dates for my wedding, because originally my wedding was going to be in April. And so they were trying to work around that at first. Well, then they were like, hey, we can't do it before that time because of COVID. And basically, because of COVID, everything got pushed back. And she said, we would like you to stay on the birth control, but we understand if you, like, we will support you if you get off of it, because it was awful. And I mean, it's basically like you're telling your body that you're pregnant based off all the hormones that are in the birth control. I've just never agreed with putting chemicals in my body anyways, and I hated taking it, to be honest. Never would have taken it unless I had to. So I basically was keeping her updated on when I was getting my period and, you know, with the birth control and everything. So COVID set us back several months, so we weren't able to do, originally they were thinking May, and then it ended up being the beginning of June where they were like, okay, now we can start you in on the double birth control, then you're going to go ahead and take your stimulation medication, all that. The first ultrasound I went to was really good. I went to my first few ultrasounds here in Nashville, so let me see if this is ready. Okay, that's ready. So my ultrasounds here were really good. They were seeing like a ton of follicles forming, which is great. I'm basically super fertile. Awesome. Basically, they tell us, like, it looks like you can fly in on Tuesday and we can do the retrieval like Friday or Saturday. So we're like, awesome. My nanny family was really great about coordinating everything, and Tyler's work is also understanding and was just really great throughout the whole process. Well, we get to the first ultrasound, and it's with this one doctor, and we'll just call him Dr. Y. And Dr. Y was like, I mean, your follicles are developing great, but basically, like, he was saying we could get more eggs if we waited. And I know, I'm guessing they wanted to get the most bang for their buck, so they decided to put me through misery a few days longer, and they said, okay, instead of Friday, Saturday egg retrieval, you're now going to have your retrieval on Monday. And by the way, you're good to go as far as like flying home same day, because we'll do the retrieval in the morning and you'll be fine by that night. So we're like, okay. And then I go in, they schedule me for another ultrasound on a Saturday when their offices aren't open except for like scheduled appointments that are like special, I suppose. So then I saw like a different doctor, a completely different doctor, and he was like, I'm gonna call him Dr. M. And he was like, we are gonna do your, by the way, this is my trick. If you cannot open a jar, you get a really thick rubber band and put it over it, and every time it works, every time. I've never not been able to open a jar with this trick. And I've opened some very stuck jars. Sorry for getting off track, you guys. So basically, this doctor was like, I'm actually going to be doing your retrieval, not Dr. Y. And, oh, so I have never waited more than 5 minutes for an ultrasound. I waited 30 minutes for this Saturday ultrasound, and there was like hardly anybody else there. Well, I ended up like telling my symptoms. I was having symptoms of nausea, constipation, acid reflux. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. This is all happening on Friday night. And Saturday was the ultrasound, so I was telling my case manager about my symptoms, seeing if there's anything I could do to like help them, because I was just miserable. And she ended up contacting, like, I guess the CEO of the of Giving Hope, which is the platform I went through. And by the way, if you are interested in donating eggs, I highly suggest Giving Hope is where you need to go. Like, what you need to go through Giving Hope. The people there are just incredible. Well, they were worried that because of my symptoms, I was already overstimulated, and that night I was supposed to take my trigger shot, and a trigger shot would make all those symptoms about 10 times worse. So they were like, okay, we need you to get your estrogen levels, we need you to get like all this information for us so we can figure out what's going on and take steps from here. And they also said, also, you're not going to fly Monday. They said, we're going to set you up to fly Tuesday. So my poor nanny family has to again adjust for me coming in yet another day later. But again, they've been so amazing this whole time. The doctor finally comes in, you know, after 30 minutes of waiting for this ultrasound. He finally comes in, and I told him, I was like, hey, my agency is kind of worried. Here's the information they told me to ask you about. And he seemed really miffed, like really put off about it. He's like, didn't like that I was basically questioning what was going on, but I was just trying to get information from my agency. I was like, hey, is there any free-floating fluid around my ovaries? He was like, yeah, there's free-floating fluid, but like, it's normal, it's fine. Like, you don't need to worry about it. And I was like, okay, I'm just asking because I was told to ask. He just seemed really like put off that I was asking about my estrogen levels and everything like that. By the way, this is gluten-free penne. If you guys have been following me for any amount of time, you know I'm allergic to gluten. But this is the best brand for gluten-free pasta. Unless you want macaroni and cheese, and then go with Walmart's shells. They're really good. So this is obviously not the healthiest stuff, but we are putting in a grocery order today because today is Wednesday. So we just got back late last night, as in like close to midnight, I think, that we got back. But basically, the whole time he was kind of downplaying my symptoms. And I was told to sit in a chair in like a half darkened hallway because there's not a lot of people there on a Saturday. And then like one of the nurses came by and she was like, you are not hyperstimulating, okay? If you were hyperstimulating, you would have this, this, and this, and you're only at this, this, and this level. And she was just going at it. Mind you, I never said that I was hyperstimulating. That's just what my agency thought based off my symptoms. I didn't have any information on what my estrogen levels were or anything like that before this point. And I am on a lot of hormones with the stimulation. So it made me cry. And like, they were just like, oh, it's your hormones that are making you cry. And I really wanted to be like, no, I'm crying because you are making me feel like I am the bad person here, and that I'm like, I don't know. It was just so embarrassing and so awful. And then I was told by my agency to ask for medication that would help with the nausea. Now, mind you, I had told these nurses and this doctor I was having constipation, I was having acid reflux, I couldn't eat, I couldn't go to the bathroom, I literally could not do anything, and it was just affecting me completely. He prescribed Zofran for the nausea. Zofran makes you constipated. Yep. So then I was like talking to my agency later that day, still feeling awful. I had taken the Zofran And I ended up having, they told me to get on a laxative. They told me to get on milk and magnesia, which I did, and that was awful. An awful 24 hours being on a laxative. I had never been on something like that before, and it was just absolute misery. Absolute misery. Besides the fact that I was also having other, like, symptoms. Actually, right now, I currently have acid reflux as I'm talking to you, and I have nausea, but I really want to get this video out, so I'm just dealing with it. And I'm trying to pop as many pills as I can, which just sounds awful, but I have to go to work today, so I am going to try to be 100% or at least close to that, so I can be there for my kids. Then my agency is like, why do they prescribe you Zofran? That makes you constipated. They need to prescribe you Phenergan. So I called the only number that I had for after hours that they had given me, which is Dr. Y's number. Now mind you, I had seen Dr. M that Saturday, and he had changed it up saying that he was going to be the one doing the egg retrieval and not Dr. Y. Well, he never gave me like an after hours number for himself, and it turned out the after hours number I called was for Dr. Y, and apparently Dr. Y was on vacation. I didn't know that until Dr. M called me and got on to me. So what happened was I left a message on Dr. Y's phone. He called back. He said, send me your full name, date of birth, and the number for the pharmacy that you want it like sent to. So I did that. Then like Dr. M called, and he called to give me like the estrogen levels, and I told him, I was like, hey, like my agency told me that Zofran causes constipation, and that's like one of the symptoms I was like trying to tell you I needed help with. So they said to take Phenergan instead, and he was like, well, I'll call it in. And I said, well, I already called Dr. Y, and I explained all that, and he was like, Dr. Y is on vacation. You need to leave him alone. If there's 2 prescriptions called in, there's 2 prescriptions called in, but I'm gonna take care of that for you. And I was like, I literally was like just in shock for a second at how rude he was to me. I said, okay, I'm gonna call the Walgreens, and if they don't have the prescription, then I will text you. So, because he was coming from his personal cell. So I called the Walgreens, and they were closed. So I ended up having to have him call it in at a 24-hour one that was like a little farther away, and it took him like half an hour to call it in when he was saying like on the phone that he was going to be able to call it in right away. And then we went there, and we had to wait another 20 minutes for them to actually like get it ready. All this time I am just miserable, and this is now on Saturday, and the retrieval was supposed to be on Monday. So I go in for the retrieval, and on Sunday I'm still having symptoms. I'm just feeling awful. I can hardly get out of bed. I can't really eat anything, and I'm just feeling just awful. But you can't eat past midnight the night before the retrieval, and you can't drink anything either. So the morning of, I go in at 8:30. We got there a little bit early, and they still didn't get me into the procedure until like closer to 9:30. And apparently they had to like press on my stomach in order to get the follicles to come down. And like get as many eggs as they could. They ended up getting 25 eggs, which is great. But the anesthesia, I guess, made me really sick. I got out of there, and I was completely out of it for 30 minutes after the procedure, and then I ended up throwing up and getting sick. And so I just felt really awful and continued to feel awful the rest of the Monday. And I was like, thank God that we did not try to fly, because there's no way I could have flown that same night. Like, I was in bed just so sore, and I mean like so sore that like to move, as in to like roll over in bed, would hurt so bad that I would start crying. Like that, I was in so much pain. And I can't remember a time in my life where I had been in so much pain before. Everything down there was just excruciating pain. Plus, I was still dealing with feeling nauseated and the constipation and the acid reflux, and I couldn't eat or sleep hardly. I slept a little bit, but it was awful. And then Tuesday, I was determined, because we were flying Tuesday night. For some reason, they had it set up that way. We had to be out of the hotel by noon though, and we weren't flying until 6 p.m. We ended up going to the airport like 4 hours early because we had to. Well, this whole Tuesday morning, I was trying to get myself feeling better. I was being stubborn and like, yes, I'm gonna walk around. I was trying to eat here and there what I could. Our flight ended up getting delayed because of an IT issue, an IT glitch, the first flight coming in. And then we got delayed again because of inclement weather where we were going to. We originally thought we were gonna have to run to make it to our connecting flight. And the running was not a good idea. I completely forgot about the fact that running and jostling everything in there can actually like cause hyperstimulation after this procedure. So I just completely forgot about it. Again, I'm still dealing with all the symptoms. I'm currently dealing with all the symptoms. Well, on the connecting flight yesterday, I ended up throwing up on the plane. Thank God I was able to make it to a bathroom, but it was a close call, and ever since then I just felt really awful. And really up until this point, I like am making myself do this video and making myself eat, but I'm still not feeling great. And my parents are coming in a couple days to come here for July 4th. So that's basically it, you guys. I wanted to give an update on everything that had happened with the egg donation and just kind of give you an update on all that. I will continue to let you know how I'm doing, but I'm hoping that from here on out I can just recover and hopefully be good to go in the next week or so. If you are considering being an egg donor, you probably are not going to run into as many issues as I did. I have seen videos of girls who did this and it was easy for them and it was a breeze and they could handle it fine. They were able to, they didn't have any symptoms, and they could go to dinner the night of after the egg retrieval, all these things. So it could have just been like the fertility clinic that I went through and my body just not wanting to be cooperative. But I hope that this encourages you and not discourages you to look into egg donation. I still am gonna say it's worth it. I still believe that me being able to help these families was worth it. But that's my story for the egg donation. If you want information, more information, or if you have questions about the egg donation process or how you get into the platform with Giving Hope, just comment down below and I will try to answer every question I can. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next video.